we can be somewhat limited if we stick just within our disciplinary fields.
I'm doing this because I genuinely love it and I'm genuinely making a difference.
Working with the clusters and being invited to work with the clusters has created a dream come true.
I convene the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Research Group, which sits inside the Sampson Institute for Health Research. I'm also the co-convener of the Human Rights and Security Research and Innovation Cluster. Prior to my cluster involvement, my academic training was across 3 of our university's divisions. So it was a way in which, through the cluster initiative, to be able to synthesise existing bodies of knowledge and be simultaneously responsive to the needs of the community. And as a professor of mental health, that's an important attribute, to be able to be responsive, to be able to pull teams together very quickly, to be able to develop trust and reflect that trust.
It was the opportunity to work with the Human Rights and Security Cluster which I really leapt at, because that immediately pushed my work as a visual artist into a multidisciplinary area. And the idea of being free to pursue what I wanted to do, but with the support and the stimulation of the cluster, also really excited me.
Before I was introduced to clusters, I was used to working in a team, but mostly my team was marketers on my side and lots of different people on an industry side. This was my first experience of working with lots of people on my side, on the university side, not all with the same background as me. And this opens your mind. It's changed the way I see many things, and I know that I've changed the way they see things as well.
I think some of the other cluster members were a bit surprised that a visual artist would be incorporated into it. But being a researcher as a visual artist is about not so much collecting data but creating opportunities. So tremendous credit goes to the clusters for inviting me in to do that and for allowing that to happen, and I think we're all getting a lot of joy in seeing that happen.
I think one of the big benefits is to bring together people who don't normally work together every day, but they come together because they find meaning and value in their interactions. And that's not only interesting, but it's also fun, it's dynamic, it's innovative, it's creative.
As a visual artist, I'm very interested in portraiture, and I've used portraiture a lot to work between communities and to enhance a feeling of welcome and belonging. Well, the first project was about the Sikh community, and at the time Australia was getting a huge amount of negative press in India. As a visual artist, I was able to counteract some of that by showing that there was a positive message to come out between Australian and Indian relationships. The portraits themselves were sponsored by the university to go to Punjab, and that was a very, very powerful moment. Got lots of widespread coverage throughout India. I appeared in something like 40 or 50 newspapers while I was there. I did about 6 or 7 television interviews, including a half-hour chat show. So it reached literally millions of people. There's so many spin-offs that have come from just being involved in the clusters. These are opportunities which I would never have had as a single individual so quickly in my career.
A chance meeting in a cab has spawned an Adelaide art project that's getting global plaudits for its stand against racism. Dan Connell's huge portraits of Sikh taxi drivers have proved so successful, he's receiving invitations to show his works around the world. Best of all, the project is making a difference in how his subjects are viewed.
So when I think of value proposition, I think it's beyond the salaries and infrastructure costs. It's these other costs that are perhaps intangibles, but highly significant in the public reputation and profiling of the university, which is priceless.
I teach an undergraduate program, and I think that's become a whole lot more interesting to students now that I'm involved in cross-disciplinary research. There's wider examples to draw upon, and if those students are coming to the course from a different discipline themselves, there's a much greater likelihood I'll be able to understand their frame of reference. Probably though, the area I am most proud of is postgrad research. I've been able to put up some fabulous topics that I wouldn't have been able to put up by myself, and to look at questions in ways that I wouldn't have thought of before I'd been involved in this work. But what I like most is that I can offer really strong co-supervision from involving these other disciplinary researchers.
One of the major initiatives for our cluster was to host a risk roundtable where we asked the most senior people in South Australia to come and meet with us and talk about issues of risk and vulnerability related to mental health and people with mental illness. So we now have, as a consequence of that, a series of grants that have been completed or are currently under review. And since that event, more than 450 people have participated in mental health symposiums and mental health masterclasses. And that's a fantastic achievement because the university is now recognised as the place to go if you want to be listened, but also the place to go if you want some responses, and the place to go to find out what's going to happen next.
Being part of a cluster, I feel like I've had real world impact. This state was the first in Australia to ban plastic bags. It's a big thing and a lot of people were nervous, especially politicians. So we did some very interesting research with Zero Waste involving multidisciplinary researchers, looking at how we thought people would respond. And we were able to say, well ahead of the ban, we think it's going to be okay. There's a good reason for this, people understand it. I know our research has been sourced from other organisations interstate who are considering bans, and I frequently get phone calls from researchers overseas. So we're seeing this cascading effect now that the research that we did here, the research our state led, using our researchers from a whole variety of backgrounds, is now influencing decisions that are happening on the other side of the world.
The Human Rights and Security Cluster initiated a project with me to work in residence at the African Community Centre in Adelaide. And one of the women who I was working with said she hates the term refugee. She said, I don't know why people keep using the word refugee. She said, we're not refugees anymore, we're here. And that was a very significant moment for me because it summed up everything that I was doing in many ways. That I was no longer illustrating the life of a refugee, but I was using my work to be able to understand how we think of ourselves in this community and in this society. It's that sort of moment which makes a lot of the investment of time and money, I suppose, in projects like that really worthwhile.
And for me, that's the magic of the cluster. That's the way in which interdisciplinary activity and the fusion of horizons that created through interdisciplinary activity have real tangible consequences for people on the ground.
And we run hard, really, really hard, just to maintain our current research profile and position. It's almost impossible to step out from that and make time to ring someone you don't know and go, hey, let's have a coffee because I've heard that you're working in this area and I'm interested in that. But clustering actually brings you together, and it often brings industry partners in as well. And that's a fearsome combination of having interested researchers, a willing industry partner, and suddenly this framework and mechanism to bring it all together.
People want multidisciplinary teams to be able to help them solve problems. So we don't compete with existing discipline-based research schools. We come from those schools and we have reached an understanding that we will share the quantum associated with our grants and publications so that our individual home schools or departments will benefit.
I can only say please keep going with these sorts of things that allow organic relationships and connections and opportunities to develop, because that's where the strength is and that's where you build strong foundations.
Working with researchers from completely different backgrounds, there have been far more eureka moments, we think the same, than there have been, oh dear, I better go back to Marketing 101.
I mean, as good citizens of the university, we have a duty to give back. So as a senior academic, nurturing and fostering a cluster initiative is an expression of university citizenship as much as it is around leadership, leading to information exchange and capacity building for within the university and for the next generation of researchers who are looking to advance their own careers.
Being involved with the clusters has not only enhanced my career, but it's pushed my work out into the wider community and given meaningful impact onto the broader community of South Australia and internationally. And the positive impact it's having on people is astounding. I don't even know where it's going to end.